Okay. Well, welcome to Changing the Game, Season 9 on Powerhouse Marketing. This is our final episode 3 in this season, but don't worry, we'll be back again next spring with another series. So, if you're interested in tuning into more of those, be sure to sign up for our email newsletter of all of our events, and you can plug into those and get all those details. If you missed either of our last couple speakers this season, you can check those out as well as all previous seasons on our YouTube channel, Playmaker Coach. There's a specific playlist called NM Marketing Playmakers, and it has all of them in there. So be sure to check that out as well for lots of great content as you're thinking about marketing and where that fits into your goals or priorities for 2025. So I'm your host, Jennifer Hensley with Playmaker Coaching and Consulting. After working with NM Advisors for more than 2 decades now, I really focus in on how I can help you play your position, stay in offense, create more raving fans and ideal clients. So we know it's officially now Q4. We're here, and it's that time of year where things just go faster and faster. So we want to get into our content today about how to create powerhouse marketing and what a powerhouse marketing team looks like too, to help you create that experience that you want to provide and that impact for your business and for your clients. So welcome, Bonnie. It's great to have you here with me today. Love to start things off by just learning a little bit more about your journey that led you to our discussion today, how long you've been in business, things like that. Can you give everybody a little bit of background on your practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jen. I am Bonnie Mangold. I live in Pittsburgh. I've been in the business for a little over 6 years. I'm a career changer. In a prior life, I was an attorney. I practiced in a big law firm for about 5 years and then made a career change. Currently run a forum level practice, two-star Pathfinder, and when I was in the Chicago office, I led the office for 3 years in a row in new client acquisition. So that's just a little bit about me and my practice.
Thanks for that background. I'm excited to get into things because I know when we first talked, you're like, I don't really do much marketing. But as we talked about things, and just as we were talking before we joined everybody else into the conference, we were saying there's so many different ways to go about it that sometimes we have to take a bigger, broader view of what does marketing really mean, or how do we grow our business and think about it more creatively. So we're going to get our conversation, and then we'll have some time for some Q&A at the end. So if you want to save your questions for everybody that's logging on, or put it in the chat, we'll be sure to come back to those towards the end of our conversation. So we want to start with kind of navigating transitions, because that's been a key theme as we've talked to advisors this fall. And I know you've had to relocate your practice, which certainly is something that for a lot of advisors may, you know, in their career, but you've been able to really thrive in everything. So can you share a little bit more about what you learned about communication to your clients and marketing in different cities that allowed you to be successful through those transitions?
Yeah, so I started my first year in the business in Pittsburgh, and then my husband got a job in Chicago. So we moved to Chicago. And so I did 3 years in Chicago. And then during the pandemic, we moved back to Pittsburgh. So I've had two location switches during my, relatively short tenure in the business. And what I've learned from making those transitions is whatever you make seem normal to your clients, it's going to feel normal, right? If you set the expectation that you have a fully virtual practice and you will probably never ever meet them in person, that's just what's normal. That's the nature of the relationship. If you set the tone that you meet in person, they come to your office downtown, right? That's what's going to be normal. And so prior to the pandemic, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to meet everyone in person. Everything's done face to face. And during the pandemic, we were all forced to make our practices virtual. And so when I transitioned back to Pittsburgh from Chicago during the pandemic, I expanded my clientele to 42 different states. I started asking for referrals, and I didn't care about geography. And that's really where I saw things take off.
So we know with a part of that, and understanding your own brand, your own value, being authentic to you is an important part of that powerhouse marketing, right? So tell us a little bit more about how you go about, authentically marketing, what your brand is.
Yeah, that's a great question. I I tend to keep things really simple in my practice, whether it's my approach language using everyday words, right? Nobody wants to feel stupid, especially talking about finances, where, especially as a woman, we have historically been left out of these conversations. And I want my clients to feel comfortable. So instead of saying things like risk management planning, I say defense. Or instead of saying, wealth accumulation, I say offense, right? Or, just using everyday words. And I think it makes people feel really comfortable. And I think the more that you can make them feel comfortable and keep things simple, the more likely they are to take action. If something seems overly complex and they don't quite understand it, they're going to feel intimidated by the process and are likely not going to take actions that are in their best interest merely because of the way you presented it. So I try to keep things really simple. I try to have really down to earth, relatable conversations with my clients. I always tell them, hey, this is a safe space to ask all of your questions. 5 years ago, I was an attorney and I didn't know anything about financial planning. So I had to learn all of this stuff too. My parents didn't teach me
Yeah.
this growing up. So I always share that with my clients right in the beginning to hopefully make them feel like they can ask me what's on their minds.
I love that you don't steer away from the fact that you didn't have all this knowledge 5 years ago, that you embrace that and say, hey, I've been where you're at. I can connect with what you're struggling with. But now, here's what I've been able to do since then that can provide some value to you. So it sounds like you've been able to really use that story as a strength of something that compels other people to want to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, early days in the business when I was just starting out, I kind of called out the fact that, hey, 3 weeks ago, I was an associate at a law firm. Would you like to, and I'm calling them to solicit them for financial planning. I use that as an opportunity to be like, hey, I don't know much about this. I'm learning, but let me introduce you to Sally, who is a total expert. And then I would just position joint work. So I think just being honest and calling it out is just being authentic, right? People don't want to feel like they're being swindled or tricked, especially when it comes to their money, especially if it's a virtual relationship. So just finding ways that you can really be authentically yourself and encourage your clients to be authentically themselves, I think is going to be really crucial.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of have fun with it, right? Like you just kind of put it out there and like recognized it. And from a marketing perspective, we always talk about kind of beating people to that punch, right? Like addressing the objection before it becomes an objection. It sounds like that's what you were doing. You were like, hey, I'm going to put it right out there because I know if somebody looks at my LinkedIn or something else, they're going to be like, she's been doing this for a week. Do I really trust her? So you're
Yeah.
going to address it and control that narrative in the way that you want to ahead of time rather than waiting for somebody to bring it to attention when you know that they're probably thinking it. So taking it off the table. So kudos for you of like taking the bull by the horn and being like, hey, I'm going to put it out there and address what I think is probably on people's minds anyway. And hopefully then put everybody at ease.
Yeah.
So part of this, and this is where I think we're really going to get into some cool things that you've been doing, is leveraging other people. And that can be centers of influence. It could be internal business partners, joint work relationships. It can be through speaking engagements, all these different opportunities that we can have sometimes to reach a bigger audience and create more scale and capacity in our business too. We always talk about having at least 3 or 4 different lead channels. And referrals are always going to be a big part of that, right? We recognize that. But if you have some other things, what that can really do for your practice. I know for you, Bonnie, you've been able to do some really cool things with your client experience through your salon events. Can you share a little bit more about how that fits in and how that's really been able to help you accelerate your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So a salon dinner is it's a type of event that actually dates back to the 17th century. And it was a way for women to get together and have open discourse on a particular topic. And they were very taboo, right, back in the day. So it was a great way to, help disseminate information, empower women. So fast forward to today, a salon dinner is where you get together a group of all women and maybe 12, 13, 14 people maximum. And what I do is I rent out an Airbnb and have a private chef come, have a sommelier come, and have a really fancy, 4 or 5 course meal, wine pairings, cocktail pairings, make it a really nice event. And I pick a topic of conversation. And I just did one last week in Chicago, and I invited 6 of my clients, and I asked them to each bring someone. So I basically had my clients hand select 6 really qualified suspects to bring with them. And so this is their first experience with me, right? And so we focus the conversation on a particular topic, right? There's no small talk. We just get right into it. And I act as a moderator and keep everything on course. And it's been an incredible way to, you know, blend a client appreciation event with a prospecting opportunity. And it's especially cool because having a fully virtual practice, it's even more exciting, right? The clients that I do invite are like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Like we're going to actually meet in person. And I'm like, yeah, great. So I've done one in Chicago, I've done one in Pittsburgh, and in 2025, my plan is to do 3 or 4 more in different cities where I have, groups of clients. So it's been an incredible opportunity, not only from, a new client acquisition perspective, but it's also been a great way to reinvigorate my current clients who attend to do more planning. I mean, I think the last one I did resulted in a $25,000 term conversion from an existing client that, she just wasn't taking action, and for whatever reason, decided to take action. And so, causation is a little tenuous there, but, I think that it was a really good way to market myself and market my business.
Yeah, it sounds like it's definitely paid off. And with marketing, we know a lot of times sometimes those immediate returns, but a lot of times it's that the thing that just kind of softens the beachhead that's working with everything else that you're doing to drive those results and everything. And that's cool to see how you're doing that and expanding that to more locations, because I think as I hear more advisors talk about building more of national practices, they're like, well, I can't really do events, or does that make sense for me because my clients are all over the country? How do I engage them? So it's cool that you're actually saying, hey, I'm going to go where they are at, where I have
Mhm.
pockets, and do some of these things. And another way to be creative about how you're growing your business. Another piece of that I love, and then we'll talk about one of the other ways that you're leveraging others. But I love that you talk about that it's not a financial discussion. The
Mhm.
topic isn't necessarily like, finance 101,
No.
but you're choosing something that you think that's really of interest to them and mixing that up and everything. So, I'm interested, and we'll probably come back to this, some ideas of what some of those other topics have been that people can think about, besides getting out of just the, hey, what's another seminar topic that I can present that's educational, that might be a way to engage clients and prospects in a conversation. So the other area that you had shared that you really use to leverage other people is to be able to use LinkedIn and the online platform to really be able to, as well as Instagram stories, be able to connect with more people and get more traction in your business. Can you just talk a little bit more about how you're using each of those platforms to continue your growth?
Yeah, so we'll start with Instagram stories. I created a professional Instagram page, and I'm no marketing expert. It's very basic. But basically, I have my associate Megan request all of my clients, to the best of our ability on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And then every other day, I have her check stories. And the reason I have her check stories is to fill out a database, so to speak, of people that are connected with my clients. And so if I want a feed list going into a review meeting, for example, I'll check the database, and Megan will be like, hey, you know, Sally was with Katie at, some event. Like she definitely knows Katie. You should ask her about Katie. And so stories are a great way to do that. I mean, you have to have a person or be the person to kind of be on top of that and have a nice way to track it. But that's been successful, because nothing's worse than asking about someone and they're like, oh, I don't really know them, because look, if you're in their Instagram story, like you know them. Like it's pretty clear, like you know that person. And so that really gets over that objection. The risk there though is that you don't know what job they have, right? You don't know if they're in your target market. So it's a little bit of a wild card, but I found that to be really helpful. As far as LinkedIn, what I've done is I've, kind of spiffed up my page, right? Put all sorts of information on there, made it look really professional, and then started reaching out and just connecting with tons of people in certain companies and, sending LinkedIn messages and introducing myself. This is a totally cold endeavor. So it's not terribly successful, but, it's just another way to kind of generate interest in your practice.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about is picking those three or four that you really want to go after. And you might have some other things that you're doing as well, but like, where do you want to put your energy? And knowing some of those are going to be warmer than others, certainly what you're doing with that small, intimate experience and the salon events probably pays off very differently than the LinkedIn outreach. So different things work for different people, or you can think about that combination that's going to work in your practice to make sure that you have different things that are bringing business in. So if one thing's not working, you've got other options too that are going to continue to work for you. I love that you talk about Instagram too, because, we, as business professionals, I know many of us really use LinkedIn as our go-to, but for some markets, our demographics, and, it doesn't always work the best to reach those individuals. So I'm glad that you mentioned about how you can use other platforms sometimes to still find individuals that might be great to have a connection with. So one of the things we want to always give our audiences a practical try it at work tip, something that they can do, bite size in the next couple weeks to really move their marketing efforts forward, start to create that powerhouse marketing that generates results for them. What advice do you have for them? What's one thing that you would recommend that they take out of today's conversation and implement in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, I think in terms of a bite-sized thing to implement, I would say you don't necessarily have to plan a major dinner party, right? Maybe think about inviting one or two of your clients that you just really like and have a good relationship with and have historically been really good nominators, or if not good nominators, just good networking people. And just say, hey, why don't we all go grab a drink? Why don't you bring someone who might be open to meeting me and learning more about my practice, and let's go do that. So even just creating, I think in this post-COVID world, people are really craving these in-person intimate experiences, and I think it's more meaningful than ever. So that's one thing that I think you could do pretty easily is, just set something like that up on a really small scale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. That while it can be wonderful to do something really polished and everything, sometimes we get caught then of like, oh, do I have the budget? Do I have the time? And trying to make, perfection versus just getting started. And especially as we're facing with the holidays and then in the year, what you just talked about is something like, hey, people want to get out, especially this time of year. Sometimes they're thriving out of like, let's go out, let's celebrate, let's spend time together. Especially before it gets really, really cold, and maybe in certain parts of the country, like where I'm at, Wisconsin, that can be simple things to connect with people. So let's open it up to some questions, and then we'll kind of circle back on some next steps from the conversation. Krista, I want to go to you if you have any particular questions. I know you work a lot with the women's market as well. I've done some great women in wine events. Any particular questions that you want to ask? And I know we've got a couple other questions that coming in the chat and everything are in the question and answer box as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hi, Bonnie, by the way.
Hi, Krista.
Jen, Bonnie actually coached me for a little.
Oh, you guys already never heard all of this.
Well, not quite. No, this is really helpful. I'm trying to think of specific questions, but I think Bonnie knows this just about my practice, but it's sometimes just taking the little steps. Like you said, it doesn't have to be this $3,000 event, but you're like, as I'm hearing you talk, I just sent out 2 texts. Like,
love it.
Can we just go grab wine? Because there's girls who are my clients here that I love, and bring a friend.
Yeah.
Like, I'll buy the wine. I think it's just these things that we don't do, and it's so easy to do. And honestly, I would have fun doing it. So I apologize that I can't think of a question right now, but Bonnie, very helpful. So thank you.
No, and I
Great
think that's
insights.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think in this business, we've always got to be thinking of new things, trying new things, and not everything that we try on we're gonna like, and not everything we try on is actually gonna work. I think we just need to have an open mind and, figure out where our strengths lie and really lean into those. So I think that's great.
Yeah. I love that,
As
Christy, you shared that you found something that like, hey, I'd have fun doing this. So like when you find that intersection of what you would enjoy with what, your clients are interested in, like those are winners, definitely.
Yeah. I'm just, and I guess one is coming to mind, the Instagram story thing. Love that. We've tried in the past to add people on Facebook or Instagram. And what I found is like when it's a person I'm meeting with that maybe is not like a direct connection to me, sometimes we struggle to find their profile,
Yeah.
right? Especially if they're private. Like, are you guys running into that or how are you navigating that challenge?
We are. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we're running into as well. I mean, we hope to find them, we try to find them. We're not always successful. And frankly, we've been doing this for maybe a year now, and Megan's like, it's the same 6 people who post stories,
Yeah.
So it's again, it's just one of the irons in the fire that we've had success with, but none of these is perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you might think about, is there an opportunity, Krista, in terms of when you're doing some of your onboarding and stuff of like, hey, where do you like to hang out? Where do you like to consume content or connect with people? And maybe that gives you some ideas or opens that conversation of like, hey, actually get all my event news and information on Facebook, or, I love going to this networking group, or to help kind of open that door and maybe then be able to get some of that information of, hey, I'd love to connect with you on there. What's your handle or something? I'll send you an invite so we can stay connected socially as well.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some ways to kind of, but with all of these things, like Bonnie mentioned, I think it's about striking while the iron's hot. Like today, I'm glad you said you did something right now. Like while you have the idea, let's take action. But then also, how do we create a process or a system? Because it's not going to happen otherwise sometimes on its own, because you guys are all really busy professionals and spending so much time helping other people that sometimes we forget about ourselves. So unless we have a system or that team, like Bonnie mentioned, having somebody else that helps her do some of this, then sometimes it just is marketing's like on the back burner all the time, right? So
Yeah.
how do we bring it up that it's more sales and marketing in our practices? Bonnie,
I
can you
think,
share?
oh,
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like hearing you talk, I think it's the systems and process that is what we are all lacking, right? Because, like you said, Bonnie, it doesn't have to be this huge thing, but I'm even thinking, okay, when I close a client, my next step is getting them on my AFR's calendar for the app call. But could I just add one step in there? Like I verbally talk about MHQ, nurse visit, investment account opening and what that takes. My AFR is executing, but could I just add, hey, we love to stay connected. What's your Facebook or what's your Instagram handle so we can share content? Like so easy. I just don't have that process in place of making sure I do it. So I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, if you will, of how to do this. It's just creating the structure.
Yeah, yeah. And if your assistants maybe already having that conversation and they sometimes are a little bit more structured than we may be, or advisors can be at times, maybe that's something you can say, hey, can we add this into your agenda? You're going to go over the like app stuff, but like let's think about some personal things we can kind of connect with them a little bit on that conversation too. And maybe that makes it a little bit more fun conversation too than rather all about, okay, we're
Yeah.
going to fill out paperwork and medical history information. So that might be something they can add in and might be better at executing on what ideas they have in terms of making that a process. So,
Mhm.
Bonnie, can you talk just a little bit about, topics that you guys have had in there and maybe some of the time that goes into the efforts that you talked about?
Yeah, so one of the ways that I'm able to execute these dinners is I hire an event planner. I'm not good at that stuff. I'm good at financial planning, and that is about it, right? So I have an event planner. I pay her to find the venue, find the chef, find the sommelier, make the centerpieces, and then I just show up. And so my prep is getting people in the room, right? And so to get 6 of my clients there for this most recent one, I invited 35 clients. So that's the work that I put in, right? And it's challenging because 2 backed out like the day before. And so then I had to kind of like scramble. And so it's like, it's not easy, but that's the work that I put in, and I hire out the other part of it. And in terms of the topics, the most recent one, the title of the event was A Night of Not So Humble Bragging. Let's practice the art of self-promotion. And so I had everyone, and I sent a couple of questions ahead of time to my clients to pass to their guests and say, look, personally, what are you most proud of? Professionally, what's your most, you know, what professional accomplishment are you most proud of? And then financially, which does not sound like a fact finder, right? Personal, professional, financial. And then I just had people go around the room and brag. And it was awkward and fun and, uncomfortable and comfortable all at the same time. So it was great. And, we talked about finance a tiny bit, but not really.
That's
With
cool.
that, did you like ask your clients whose guests came to sign in, if you will, or somehow get information, or did you just say kind of whoever follows up with you follows up and you took that chance?
No, so what I did was I said, because everyone at the end of this, like you've built a community. Like people are so vulnerable, they're so jazzed up, they're 5 drinks in, like it is amazing, right? And so at the end, what I say is, hey, look, I want to keep the conversation going. I'm going to reach out to those of you who are my clients to get contact information for those of you that I'm meeting tonight. And I'm going to put us all on one group email so we can all network with each other. And then I'm going to reach out to you that I don't know very well individually. And I can't wait to follow up with you. So I just say that at the end. And so it just kind of normalizes, hey, we're all going to connect with each other and I'm going to reach out to you. So that's what I do.
That's some great language. And if you guys haven't seen the new NM event management tool, it's still in limited release, but if you're interested in using it, as long as you have enough lead time, most often they can kind of support that. Can't promise anything, but it's pretty cool and can help manage that and getting those guests and everything that may be attending an event as well. So something that you can kind of check into if you're doing a lot of events and want to look. I'd be happy to share more details on that in connection to those of you who want to get more information. The other thing I'll just mention real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap things up for today, is Bonnie, you made me think of one of the exercises I went through, and we have this on our website, playmakercoach.com, as well as this My Pride experience, where you go through different parts of your life, from being a kid to kind of, when you're a teenager to a young adult to different life stages, and what were some of your professional, personal, athletic or whatever different areas of your life that you're most proud of, and those stories around that. And I know I have really gotten a lot of value about reflecting back and trying to think about those. And maybe that's something that might give another angle to some of those topics that you guys are discussing in those groups, or a follow-up resource that people might enjoy. So appreciate the time again today. This is a great conversation. I always learn something every time as well. If you have more questions around it, we didn't get time to it today, or listening to the replay, you can go to the LinkedIn event for today's conversation, add your questions in there. And myself or Bonnie, I'm sure, would be happy to reply back, provide some additional resources or ideas, as well as we know it's the end of the year, so I am scheduling Finish Strong calls. If anybody is interested in scheduling a half-hour call to talk a little bit more about where marketing or some of these strategies fit in for the end of the year, I'd be happy to have a complimentary conversation to talk about that with you. For joining us today, Bonnie, we do want to do a charitable gift to a cause that you're passionate about. What's an organization that we can help support for a give back for your time today?
Yeah, I would love a gift to Planned Parenthood.
Wonderful. I know that that's probably a hot topic, especially right now. So we will be happy to support an organization that's important to you. And resources and everything. If you're interested in learning more about these, like I said, you can check out the YouTube page, playmakercoach.com. We have all the videos on there, as well as our score assessment. It will help you kind of think about where are you in your marketing journey? Do you have maybe those 3 or 4 different irons in the I'm going to not say the right analogy here, but irons going and everything about growing your business. Or maybe you want to explore, like, what do I want to grow next year? Do I want to do more speaking? Do I want to do more with LinkedIn or Instagram? What does that look like for you? We'll send out the recording from today's conversation as well. And remember Bonnie's Try It at Work tip to just reach out to a couple people and say, hey, why don't we schedule some time? Why don't we just put something on the calendar and get together and bring a couple friends, and we'll enjoy that time together, and hopefully it raises everyone's success together. So one final thought for you today as we wrap up, now's the time to go boldly into the end of the year and towards your goals. Now's the time to be the change that you want to see in your practice. So now's the time to take action. We appreciate all your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll be back next spring with more webinars for you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. That was wonderful.
Thank you. And I'd love to take you up on your offer for the consultation. How do I go about getting that scheduled?
Yeah, I can send you a link to my calendar,
Okay.
and you can just find a time that works for you, and we can talk a little bit further about what's next on your mind and everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm just seeing Krista put something in here. Intimate Events. Oh, so I think she's interested in a website. Have you seen that Intimate Events website?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you guys the contact information, everything for that too. Like I said, it's not released to everybody.
Yeah.
But if they have enough time, it sounds like they're right now, they still have pretty good availability. If somebody's like, hey, I want to do this. I have a client that's doing that for their 10-year anniversary party. So they have it set up on there, and it's working out really nice and smooth and a lot better than the old one. So I will send you that. I appreciate it. If you have a link, I'm assuming with Planned Parenthood, it's just their national, like if I go online to their organization, that should be fine. Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to do so. Well, I enjoyed our conversation, and we'll set up some time and talk more soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. Bye-bye.